Hey friends, welcome back to Homeschool-ology. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Nikki. I'm a homeschooling mom of 4, and then we have an 8th grader, 4th grader, kindergartner, and preschooler. And today's video is from a request from you guys, and I'm going to be talking about how we handle sibling conflict. I want to preface this by saying, I am by no means an expert in this. My kids, they definitely have a lot of conflict. I definitely don't handle it the best way. I am in no way an expert in this, but you guys wanted to know how I handle it. So I'm going to share with you my tips or what I try to remember and try to do. Do I do this every single time? No, I do not. I am not perfect. I do not, sometimes it doesn't go well, but this is my goal. This is what I strive for. And this is what we do to kind of help manage some of those sibling arguments that might arise. Okay, so I have 6 kind of tips, 6 kind of things we do. So I'm going to go through these one by one. The first one is separation. So sometimes, and this is just a general rule as far as all conflict, sometimes you just need to take a step away for a minute. You need to have a few minutes to kind of calm yourself, to kind of get out of the, the buildup that you're in. You kind of need a minute. And so 90% of the time we start by getting them into separate spaces, whether that means sending them to their own rooms or pulling one out of where, whatever's happening and having a moment with mom or whatever that is. We just, a lot of times, just separating them, especially when it's really, really heated. That can be a really big step into resolving whatever conflict is happening. It gives me a chance to kind of understand from each of the perspectives. While they're separated, I'll go talk to one and then I'll go talk to the other. And that will kind of give me a chance to see what is the true story and how best can we get this, come to a compromise. So that is my first step. I do try to do that as much as possible, because it really does help. I know me personally, when I'm upset, I sometimes just need a minute. Just let me be for a minute so I can get myself right. So I try to give them that opportunity as well. So number 2, I try to put myself in each of their shoes. I try to think about how would I feel in this situation. And then I ask them to do the same thing. I ask each of them to say, how would you feel if you were on this side of it? Or how would you feel if she did that to you? Or he did that to you? Do you like it when XYZ happens to you? Trying to get them to understand that it's not, they need to think about others. They need to have that empathy for others. If they wouldn't like it, then they don't need to be doing it to somebody else. So that is something that we really try to focus on here. Take a minute. How would that make you feel? Does that make, and I try to do it so that I can be, see it from their perspective too. If somebody were doing that to somebody else outside of our family, how would that make you feel about it? Is that right? Is that something that you think is fair, or do you think is, appropriate or would make somebody feel good? So that is definitely something that we would definitely be trying to do, to kind of maybe look at it from a different perspective. Number 3. Now this one you can't do this one right in the moment. They've got to have their separation. They've got to talk about it. They've got to see. But sometimes just doing something fun together as a family can kind of help with that sibling conflict, when they're maybe feeling like they need some attention, doing something like playing a board game together, or, watching something together, a show together, and eating some popcorn, or maybe sitting down and reading, or building something with the Magna-Tiles, or doing something all together where they can have, where they're both getting your attention, they're both getting equal. And that can just make them feel better. You can't always do that right in the moment. Sometimes they've got to burn that steam off before you can come back and do that. But that does help them when I feel like they're doing a lot of fighting, taking a minute and doing something fun together can kind of encourage that doing fun things together behavior, try to set them on the right course to getting along. So that's not something that you're going to do like in the heat of the moment, but it is something that helps, that I try to do. If we're just having a day where we're just everybody's just arguing with each other all day, we will try to do something fun together to try to remember that we love these people and that, we can have fun together. So number 4 is setting family rules. So these are rules that, like, in our house, we don't say the word hate. There's no I hate you. There is no I hate this. There is no hate. We don't say the word hate because it hurts people's feelings when it's said to them. So we've just banned the word altogether. You're not allowed to say that word here. We don't use that word because it hurts people's feelings. And that, so setting up rules like that, like obviously we have a no hitting rule. Do they still hit each other? Absolutely, of course. But, having those rules of things that these are things we just don't do, and explaining to your children that we don't do these because they harm other people or because they hurt other people's feelings or because it's not safe or whatever those, but having those rules of how you treat each other can really go a long way, especially for, kiddos who need set rules to know what they wanted. There are just some people out there that just need to know what the rules are so they can follow them. But having those rules and trying to be aware not to do those things yourself, so that they can see that this is a rule that we follow, can really be helpful. So number 5 kind of goes along with number 3, and I should have put them closer together in the list, but it's have them work towards a common goal. So if they, have been kind of bickering all day long, we will maybe start a project together that we're working towards a common goal where, like, hey, let's all work together to make a batch of brownies, or hey, let's all work together to, I would say like pick up the playroom, but they hate doing that. But, doing something that we can work together to achieve something so that we're all doing it, we're all in the same boat and all get that, feeling of accomplishment once we've completed whatever goal that is. That can really help too with the, because when they're working together, they're not fighting. So, for instance, sometimes my girls will, get in an argument about the Animal Crossing game, or I wanted you to come to my island, or why don't we all go to this island and we can work on building whatever it is that we want to build, and so sometimes just giving them like something that they can work towards together can be a real help. And last, of course, I'm observing and, keeping an eye on the situation, but sometimes you just have to let them work it out on their own. And that can be really hard for a parent to not step in and to not try to correct the situation. But sometimes you just have to do it. Sometimes, at some point, they have to learn how to manage things on their own. Now, I'm not talking about doing this with 2-3-year-olds who are fighting over a block. That's not when you implement this. But when you have 2 preteens and they're upset about, somebody has something that the other person wants, sometimes you just kind of have to let them see if they're going to come up with a compromise on their own. And honestly, most of the time they do. They're, now that they've been modeled along how we, resolve these conflicts, things that we do, compromises we make, teaching them to compromise. Now that they're in their preteen years, they sometimes will say, like, all on their own, well, let me use it for 5 more minutes and then you can have it. Or, well, let me finish whatever this is and then you can have it. So they will start to learn to compromise on their own. And that's the goal. That's what you want. So sometimes you're just going to have to let go of the control and see how it all shakes out. Now, of course, if it starts getting nasty, I'm going to step in and I'm going to implement one of these other things, either separating them or talking to them about how the other one would feel getting, their, so at some point I probably am, at some point I'm going to have to step in, but I try to let, once they're older, I try to let see if they can work it out on their own, if they can come up with some kind of compromise. And a good amount of the time they do. Sibling conflict is kind of important to learning how to deal with conflict as an adult. They need to experience these things to understand how to work through it and how, what's the best approach. So letting them do that sometimes is necessary, or you should be allowing them to do that so they can learn those skills on how to resolve conflict when they are going into the adult world and they're having conflict with people that aren't in their family. So sibling rivalry, sibling conflict can be stressful, especially when it's happening a lot, but having a space where they can go and be themselves, like maybe you set up a tent in the playroom where only one person is allowed in a time, and that can be their kind of decompression area if they need it. I know that a lot of teachers will do that kind of sort of thing in the classroom, like have a spot with some, cozy pillows and things that when a child just needs time to themselves, they can go over there. Nobody else is allowed to go over there when somebody else is utilizing the space, and that's their space that they would have. So there's a lot of strategies you can implement, but this is something, like I said at the beginning, this is something that I still struggle with. I mean, there's still sometimes a lot of yelling, and, the only way to resolve it is to just, say, this is the way that it is. I'm sorry it doesn't make you happy. That's it, and so it's definitely a topic, guys. It's definitely something that I'm still working on as well. So even though these are the tips that I try to remember and the tips that I try to follow and the things that I have done that have kind of helped a little bit along the way, I'm still by no means any kind of expert. So if you are an expert, or if you are not an expert and you just have tips that work really well, I'd love to hear those down in the comments. I could always use help in this kind of area. And I'm sure others would appreciate some tips and tricks too as well. So make sure you are heading down there and commenting so that we can all learn from each other. While you're down there, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget, you can follow us over on Instagram at Homeschool-ology. And I hope you will come back and chat with me again soon. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye.